Assalamualaikum, welcome back. We are here with the second part of the poem Inklings from the Dark, right? So, in my previous class I told you all about what's symbolism in Inklings from the Dark, right? Now, another very important technique, use of imagery in this very poem. We will talk about imagery that has been used in this poem by J.R. Malik or by Professor Rahman Rahi. Okay. So, the imagery is the pictures created by words. Now, let us see, there are some in this very poem there are some violent images. Some are serene, some are optimistic, but some are pessimistic in nature, that they give us that feeling of optimism, pessimism, right. First part fully pessimistic, right. Second part optimistic. Yes, by the way, in the first part I used it somewhere, perhaps the word brow, but it's brow, it's not brow, right. I am correcting that, it is brow, right. So, if you come to the imagery in this very poem, now see in Inklings, Inklings from the Dark, what is the imagery? I will tell you. For example, we have three types of images in this very poem, right. The first one is visual imagery, right. Then we have auditory, then we have olfactory. Okay, fine, yes. Now see, when you come to this visual imagery, you will find the use of word kangri here, ashes, okay, or the blood of the dove, smouldering of the eagle's beak, right. You have feathers scattered all over the hilltops, yes, that is another image, visual image. You have snow flakes filling the crevices. So, that is another image, visual image, right. Then, if you come to sound image, auditory, right, what will you see there? Again, a huge number of images in the poem, right. For example, you have that whispering that I told you, whispering come from outside, then there is hooting of the owl, right. Hooting of the owl, the sound, hoot, and that whispering sound, right. So, these two can be said that these are the auditory images in this very poem, right. Then come to olfactory, right, that means something to that smell, right. For example, if you go to this, yes, in auditory, you can have, yes, in olfactory, sorry, you can have fragrant blossoms, okay. And here in visual again, sorry, in visual again you have this is in a visual image, right. For example, if you go to this, there is a drop of sweat down a fresh playing on his brow, right. So, these are some of the visual images. Even oyster is there, right. Oyster is also a visual image. Mushroom on the mount is a visual image, right. A drop of sweat dawned afresh, that is also a visual image. Then playing on his playing on his brow, a drop of sweat playing on his brow, this can be single one, and this is also dawned afresh playing on his brow, right. This is a full line, this can be called, this is a visual image, right. Then olfactory, I said, that is a fragment, that is blossom, only fragrant blossom, that can be olfactory in its nature, right. These are some of the images. Now, let us come to the poetic devices in this very poem, right. So, some of the poetic devices in this very poem are, we will talk about them all, okay. Yes. The first one is metaphor, right. If you come to this poetic device, we have metaphor there, okay. And then we have simile there, right. Fine. We have metaphor, we have simile, we have personification. Personification in this poem, right? There is personification, metaphor, simile, personification, right? And then we have enjambment, right? Then we have consonants. Okay. So, see, almost this is a plethora of the poetic devices. One who learns this poem, I feel that he will find all the important poetic devices that you need in class 12th in this very poem, right. So, for example, in metaphor, what do you have? You have thread of my fancies, thread of my fancies. So, that means dream. His imagination stands for the thread of my fancies is actually the dream that is evolving in his mind, that he is actually experiencing, right. Then wild shadows of mind, depths, wild shadows of mind, wild shadows of mind, deep down in somewhere in the brain, right, somewhere in the maybe heart, helpless ashes, right, helpless ashes. So, ashes, helpless ashes can stand for, if we go deep down, it can stand for people. It can stand for someone who will give you comfort, comfort giver, provider, someone who can be a helper, who can lend a helping hand, and a person who can encourage like that. So, comfort giving, right, helping, encouraging like that, right. So, in simile we have one word like moon-struck man, moon-struck man. So, that means the poet compares himself with the hysterical kind of person, with a crazy kind of man, right. So, crazy man, right. So, that is simile. Then, if you come to personification, right, giving human qualities to non-human entities, right, things. For example, here we say in personification we say ashes kissed my feet. So, ashes, in Kangri you have ashes, you understand. So, that is kissing the feet. So, this is a human quality, human attribute given to ashes, which has no life, right. So, this is called personification. Yeah, or another one example is there in this very poem, drop of sweat playing on his brow, drop of sweat, drop of sweat playing on brow, right, drop of sweat playing on brow. So, here pasina, drop of that pasina as playing. So, again a human kind of thing, but it has been attributed to the sweat. So, again another example of personification, right. Then you have enjambment in this very poem. For example, if you go to the line and rose and lean my back against the wall, the line continues, with the cool of the winter, with the cool of the, actually the line is up to this, but the thought goes into the second line, with the cool of the winter in the marrow of my breast, right. So, the thought goes to second line, the sentence is run over, right, When one thought, one sentence runs over and goes to the next sentence, there is no pause at the end of the line. That is called enjoyment. Here in this poem you will find this also, right. There are 3 more other examples, right. Then you have consonants, where I said that last time in one of my lectures, that when these letters, not vowels, right, these consonant letters, consonants, sorry, when they are irregularly in a line, maybe somewhere it is in the beginning, in one word in a line, and in the next word it is at the end or in the middle, but it is a regular occurrence of these consonant sounds. For example, here I see in one of the lines, there are so many examples, but I have selected one, sighted deep, right, sighted deep. For example, sighted deep. Here you will see this example, the end is the first word and the it begins the another word. So, this can be an example of consonants. Okay, great. Then we have some 2 more devices, literary devices. They are connected to music in the poem, right. What are they? They are alliteration and assonance, right. They are alliteration, okay, alliteration and assonance. For example, if you go to alliteration, what will you see in alliteration? For example, yes, in alliteration we have, for example, a word like this, the same old fashion. I will write it here, the same old fashion, right. It is the same line, it continues, the same old fashion, right. It is somewhere in this very poem, right. The same old fashion, yeah, in the 3rd line of the poem, in the same old fashion smoldered the blood of the dough. Is it that? Smoldered the blood, smoldered the blood, okay. Smoldered the blood, okay. See, sometimes I at one place I wrote SMOLD, right. So, that is American kind of pronunciation of this very word. So, you have such kind of things when you come to laptops, computers or these electronic gadgets, you will see that they have different spellings. It is actually American and British kind of spelling that sometimes maybe in some of the class I will talk about this, how the spellings are different. So, that is why sometimes we as teachers or maybe as you students, you may remove this U type of thing, and there are so many other words. So, that is actually we are conscious to the machine, and that is what they do. And here I have added the U again, smoldered the blood. Now, see what is the alliteration. Here we have the t sound, and again we have this t sound here, right. So, repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of the words, right. Then you have, for example, s sound, same old fashion, smoldered again, right. So, this is in this very line, t and t is repeated, s and s is repeated, 2 examples of alliteration in this very line. Okay. Now, coming down to assonance, for example, there is an example, there is a line like this, my lips whisper window. So, this is a line 3 times a sound in my lips, lips a sound is repeated, whisper a sound is repeated, window a sound is repeated. Okay. So, that is assonance used in the poem. Likewise, I told you about consonants. Now, coming to the crux of the poem, that is the connotative understanding of this very poem. Okay. Now, I will tell you what how we will decode, how we will try to understand the metaphysics behind this poem, right. The poem goes like this. The poem talks about destruction, simple, that we have understood through when we understood the symbol of eagle. It talks about violence, despair and finally hope in the last stanza. For example, the poem begins, this is a connotative understanding of the poem. The poem begins with, the poet begins with his imagination running out wild when he says that fancy is silent, wherein the eagle symbolizes a powerful class of society, right? A force, nation that's absolutely dominating and violent in nature. Yes. And then on the other side, we have a dove that symbolizes the powerless, weak and innocent class of people, right? Now, in the very first as I am telling you, there is an environment of fear and violence created, right? That can be seen dominating the first part of the poem. Okay, this is the connotative understanding I am trying to share with you. The dominating forces are on rampage like the eagle, you see. Their hands are filled with the blood of the innocents. The mountains, even you can see, for example, the mountains, in fact, the entire atmosphere is gory, and body parts, even burnt skin of the innocent people, innocent beings can be seen scattered all around. If you take the example of eagle, then her its feathers all around scattered. So this is how you will decode this. Then what is happening? The innocent people are suffering in the hands of oppressors. It is an era of continuous disorder, because the same old fashion when the poet says in the first two lines, continuous disorder, and at the same time a very important point, the gap is widening, because he sees that when he turns around and sees a deep dark chasm. What does that say? That says that there is a gap, and that gap is widening between the oppressors and the oppressed. There is no point. The poet is scared after this gory kind of, this turbulent kind of situation. The poet feels scared to experience all this, and in the middle of this turbulence, he feels himself pushed to the wall, right? He says it in the poem, and then he experienced the noise, the whispering that comes from outside. Of this is complete disorder outside, and the snowflakes that are filling the crevices. Then another very interesting point, he finds a mouse who represents weak people, who represents quiet people, who are not able to speak up. They are hiding for their lives, okay? And at the same time you see a cat, a cruel force, a dominating force, again a predator. It's on the hanger, just ready to pounce on the prey. So it's not allowing the mouse perhaps to come out. It's very much there to catch and kill. So the environment is extremely fearful and excruciating. The Kashmiri represents comfort, support or excitement, which has lost its strength in this continuous violence. The ashes are the fire. Again, this fire has lost its strength. It's of no use in this most difficult time. Humanity is completely shrouded in despair at almost a point of no return and no possible refuge. At this highest degree of chaos and fear, the owl beats the last trumpet to announce the misfortune or total death that's going to rule in the future. Long back, very interesting how this poem has been written, very interesting and fascinating. The poet wants to scream after witnessing all the horror, but his heart is too weak to allow him to express his pain on the prevailing situation. But in the last stanza, then suddenly we feel a cool breeze. There is a balm on the wounds, and the inflicted pain subsides. The poet introduces his own son as a hope, youth and vigor to be the brighter tomorrow after the darkest night. The poet sees the new generation to learn from their elders. The first part of the tale, and work hard with honesty, compassion and justice for a bright future as redemption of the human race for the sufferers. The poet presents this message by telling the story of an oyster, a sea creature which experiences toughest challenges and struggles in pain, and ultimately the result of that pain is, the result of that hard work is that pearl, right. Here we see an association or suggestive opinion of the poet that his son will be of the nature of oyster. He will work with dedication, devotion, commitment, and will struggle to construct a new tomorrow for his new world, the world of peace, comfort and prosperity without any tyrants around. This all is evident in the sleep of the sun, where the poet sees blooming blossoms, mushroom and the pearl produced by the oyster, right. So, that was the connotative part, the metaphysical part that I tried to crack for you. And now very important thing that I want to share, that is the theme of this very poem, right. What is the theme? Dear students, good times and bad times cycle through life just like day becomes night. Very simple. In life we all experience internal and external struggles, right. We all struggle. There are internal struggles, there are external struggles. During these hard times, it is hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it that? Right now in the pandemic times, you see we all in trouble, in distress, in despair. You don't play, you don't go to your school. This is a kind of dark night, but definitely a bright day is going to come. And here I am reminded of Holy Quran, which comes up with chapter 94, where verse 5 and 6 guides us in this darkest time of our life. And what's that? فَإِنَّمَا الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّمَا الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا. What does that mean? So verily with the hardship there is relief. Verily with the hardship there is relief. So let us hope for the best, right? Okay, that was the theme, right? After every darkest night, there is the bright day. We will talk about, wrap up this poem, the point of view. The poem has a first person narrator who narrates the story as an oppressed person, a concerned father, or a human being who is in travails. And what is the tune of this very poem? Sad, definitely, in the first two stanzas, and in the last stanza there is some hope, right? Yes. Now we will come to an important thing, assessment, right? See, I just shared with you the theme of this poem, right? But for example, every cloud has a silver lining. In the light of this very poem, explain this very quote, right? If you can, this is a proverb, if you can do that, that will be great. Do it and share it with your class teachers. Fine, excellent, that is great. Now another question, I am write it down. How has the sun been described in this very poem, right? In the second instance, I described that in my denoted report, connotative report, through symbols, everywhere I told you, right? Do that. And yes, these two important lines, write down reference, explanation with reference to the context. Only these two lines I want it here right now. Perchance he was dreaming the rest of the tale, perchance the oyster had laboured forth a pearl. Is that fine? Okay. Do these three questions, okay, and yes. Then the last important thing, there is a wonderful poem. If you really love to do it, there is a wonderful poem, and that has been written by John Keats, and the name of the poem is To Hope. All right, read that poem and enjoy that poem. That will definitely help you to understand this poem in more better way. I hope that this lesson will help you to crack other poems that are on your course in your textbook. Today I think it was a complete orientation of poetic devices, symbol, image, other poetic devices, alliteration, assonance, consonants. I almost discussed everything, right? But it comes back to your shoulders. Sit back, right, with complete confidence. Every teacher is there for you, but you take care of your health. That's very important at this very important time, right? Because you know there's complete surge in pandemic cases here and there. Every time there's a kind of fear again, because infections are on rampage. You have to take care of your health first. Second, education. Get back to your studies, back in the home. Sit back and take the notebook, jot down these things and revise them, and inshallah future will be absolutely bright for you. With this remark, I take permission from you. Thank you. Wish you all the best. Assalamu alaikum.